Thank you, Gay. Well, seeing as it is summertime, we do things a little differently, and sometimes we awaken to surprises. This morning, the camera system decided to be completely unresponsive, and so we have no shot from the high pulpit or of the high pulpit. So I will officiate the service from this lower perspective today. Welcome to the First Religious Society Unitarian Universalist in Newburyport. I'm Reverend Marcus Lyle, and I have the privilege of serving as your minister this morning. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome. We're glad that you're here. If you're new and you'd like to connect, please fill out one of the blue cards in your pew and put it in the collection plate. We come together at FRS in person and online, committed to love, peace, and justice. Our mission and our invitation to all of you is to come as you are, journey together in love, act with courage, transform our world. If you are worshiping online and would like access to this morning's order of service, just click on the link below the live stream. If you would like a large print order of service or a hymnal, please ask an usher and they will be happy to help you. Next Sunday, August 3rd, is a worship field trip to the Amesbury Quaker meeting. Join in the peace of unprogrammed silent worship with the Amesbury Friends and stay for fellowship at coffee hour. Bring a treat to share if you'd like. Prior to visiting, you are encouraged to spend time exploring the Amesbury Friends website, especially the newcomer section. And that can be found at amesburyquakers.org. The Quaker Meeting House is located at 120 Friend Street in Amesbury, and worship begins promptly at 10 a.m. Every Sunday, it is such a blessing that we can be together and to gather. So let us give ourselves to it. Welcome once again. It's good to be together. Our call to worship this morning is a poem by Muhammad Iqbal entitled The Journey of Love. Where in our hearts is that burning of desire? It is true that we are made of dust, and the world is also made of dust, but the dust has motes rising. Whence comes that drive in us? We look to the starry sky, and love storms in our hearts. Whence comes that storm? The journey of love is a very long journey, but sometimes with a sigh, you can cross that vast desert. Search and search again without losing hope. You may find sometime a treasure on your way. My heart and my eyes are all devoted to the vision. You're faithfully and joyfully called to worship today. And with Steve's help, please join in saying our chalice lighting words as Steve lights the chalice. The words can be found in your order of service. We gather this hour as people of faith with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope sign of our quest for truth and meaning in celebration of the life we share together. And each week, we also light 2 candles of peace, representing 2 places on earth that we lift up and remember as a sacred encounter with our world. There are untold numbers of places on earth that need peace. These 2 we especially hold close in this service and through the week ahead. After each candle is lit, I will invite you to respond saying, peace, salam, shalom. Our first candle is lit for the Gaza Strip, where airdrop aid to Gaza resumed to attempt to alleviate the humanitarian crisis after mounting international pressure. Dozens of Gazans have died of malnutrition in the past few weeks, according to the Gaza Health Ministry. Starvation is spreading, and most of the population is homeless amid widespread ruin, while Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and US President Donald Trump appeared on Friday to abandon the Gaza ceasefire negotiations with Hamas. To this, we respond, peace, salam, shalom. Our second candle is lit for the border between Thailand and Cambodia. As the leaders of Cambodia and Thailand have agreed to meet for ceasefire talks after days of cross-border violence, Bangkok and Phnom Penh have been fighting over territory disputed since colonial power France drew the border between them more than a century ago. The renewed deadly conflict pits longtime US ally Thailand against Cambodia's relatively young armed force, which has close ties to China. To this, we respond, peace, salam, shalom. And please rise in body or spirit as we join our voices in our affirmation of faith, followed by the doxology. The words can be found in your order of service. Love is the doctrine of this church, the quest of truth its sacrament, and service is its prayer, to dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with God. From all that dwell below the skies, let faith and hope with love arise. Let beauty, truth, and good be sung through every land by every tongue. You may be seated. The generosity of our community is an essential ministry that supports the work of the church, both in Newburyport and beyond. Each week, 50% of the Sunday offering not designated as a pledge goes to a local community partner engaged in important efforts to transform our region. Our community partner, I'm not sure who it is actually, it's not listed in my order of service, but rest assured we have a deserving community partner. To give online, please use the link in your order of service or below the live stream. You can also make a contribution by text, and of course, you can always mail a check to the church as well. Thank you. The offering will now be gratefully received. Thank you, Gay. At this time, I'd like to offer the community prayers of sorrows and joys. Each week, we lift up the joys and sorrows of our beloved faith community. Steve will light the candles as I read what has been shared with me in advance of today's service. If you would like to share a joy or a sorrow to be read in the service, you can always send an email to betweenus@frsuu.org or write in the book located in the vestibule. Sandra Thaxter shares, I am recovering. I'm so grateful for all the cards and flowers and communication from FRS members. Please thank them all. I keep the flowers close to my heart, even as the blossoms fade. I am mobile, getting stronger each day. So happy to be at home with my backyard and birds, and on a good day, a breeze. Much love going out and still coming in. Sandra. Please also hold Janet Howell in your loving thoughts. Janet has been in Leahy, Burlington, in the hospital of Leahy, Burlington, being treated for inflammation in her body with a heavy dose of steroids. She lost partial vision in her right eye. She came home on Wednesday, and her children are there. Janet's healing boundaries for now are no visitors and no phone calls. Her healing requirements for now, and probably forever, are robust heart waves sent her way. Thank you. And we light one final candle for all concerns that may be unspoken at this time, but are known by God and will be held with love. Amen. An excerpt from Ralph Waldo Emerson's essay, The Oversoul, which is reading number 531 in Singing the Living Tradition. Let us learn the revelation of all nature and thought, that the highest dwells within us, that the sources of nature are in our own minds. As there is no screen or ceiling between our heads and the infinite heavens, so there is no bar or wall in the soul where we, the effect, cease, and God, the cause, begins. I am constrained every moment to acknowledge a higher origin for events than the well I call mine. There is deep power in which we exist and whose beatitude is accessible to us. Every moment when the individual feels invaded by it is memorable. It comes to the lowly and simple. It comes to whosoever will put off what is foreign and proud. It comes as insight. It comes as serenity and grandeur. The soul's health consists in the fullness of its reception. Forever and ever, the influx of this better and more universal self is new and unsearchable. Within us is the soul of the whole, the wise silence, the universal beauty to which every part and particle is equally related, the eternal one. When it breaks through our intellect, it is genius. When it breathes through our will, it is virtue. When it flows through our affections, it is love. And Gabe Pearson will now provide us with reflective music of Peace, Peace by Bill Evans. The Unitarian Universalist Historical Society proclaims Ralph Waldo Emerson as the most recognized and revered figure in the Unitarian movement. Barry M. Andrews, author of the book Emerson as a Spiritual Guide, calls Ralph Waldo Emerson the patron saint of religious seekers. Emerson described himself as an endless seeker with no past at my back. I'd like to begin with a brief backward glance at a chronology of some of Emerson's biographical details. Ralph Waldo Emerson was born May 25th, 1803, in Boston, Massachusetts, to Ruth Haskins and the Reverend William Emerson. He was named after his mother's brother, Ralph, and his father's great-grandmother, Rebecca Waldo. His father, William Emerson Jr., was a liberal-minded Unitarian minister and pastor to Boston's First Church from 1799 to 1811. He was the founder of its Philosophical Society and a founder of the Boston Athenaeum. Sadly, he died from stomach cancer at age 42 when Ralph was only 8 years old. Death and loss continued to have a major impact in Ralph's life, as 4 of his brothers and sisters died in childhood. Ralph entered Harvard College at the age of 14 and matriculated for about 5 years. Midway through his junior year, Emerson started a journal in a series of notebooks that he called Wide World, and he would continue to maintain journals for the next 60 years of his life. Emerson began to teach for 4 years at the School for Young Ladies, a women's school which was run by his brother William. At this point, at 22 years of age, he entered Harvard Divinity School. However, his studies were interrupted by eye troubles and other health challenges. In 1827, he became an itinerant preacher, and as he was traveling to Concord, New Hampshire, he met 16-year-old Ellen Tucker, and they began courting. 2 years later, Emerson was hired as an associate minister at Boston's Second Church, a Unitarian church located on Hanover Street in Boston's North End neighborhood. He was ordained on January 11th, 1829. He and Ellen Tucker married that same year. In addition to his church role, he took on other responsibilities. He was a chaplain of the Massachusetts legislature and a member of the Boston School Committee. But unfortunately, his wife's health deteriorated quickly, and tragically, she died of tuberculosis at the age of 19. Emerson was heartbroken and left bereft by Ellen's death. And a journal entry 5 days after her death indicates that he was questioning the existence of an afterlife. There is that which passes away and never returns. This miserable apathy, I know, may wear off. I almost fear when it will. I shall stoop again to little hopes and little fears and forget the graveyard. But will the dead be restored to me? Will the eye that was closed on Tuesday ever be again in the fullness of love for me? Shall I ever again be able to connect the face of outward nature, the mists of the morn, the stars of eve, the flowers, and all poetry, with the heart and life of an enchanting friend? No. He says, there is one birth, and one baptism, and one first love, and the affections cannot keep their youth any more than men. For months and months, he would walk from Boston to Roxbury to visit Ellen's grave daily. He was, in his own words, unstrung and debilitated by grief. 5 months after Ellen's death, he wrote, "The days pass over me, and I am still the same. The aroma of my life is gone, like the flower with which it came." In this period of bereavement after his wife's death, he began to experience conflicts within the church's methods and decrees. He wrote in his journal in June 1832, "I've sometimes thought that in order to be a good minister, it was necessary to leave the ministry. The profession is antiquated. In an altered age, we worship in the dead forms of our forefathers." He had disagreements with the church and with the church officials over the administration of the communion service and misgivings about public prayer, eventually leading him to resign in 1832. As he wrote, "This mode of commemorating Christ is not suitable to me. This is reason enough why I should abandon it." Author Robert Richardson writes in his book, 3 Roads Back, Emerson left formal, inherited traditional Christianity in 1832 and never returned. But he did not want to walk away from the personal, the social, the human relations, the communion between and among like-minded people of faith, his parishioners. Emerson might no longer be a proper Christian, but he still had and would always have a religious nature. A few months after resigning as associate minister, he was still an unemployed minister with no fallback plan. Robert Richardson describes in that same book how Emerson suddenly decides to set sail for Europe. Emerson's physical condition at the end of December 1832 was so poor that Captain Ellis of the brig Jasper was reluctant to take him on board, lest he not survive the voyage. But Emerson did go, one of 5 passengers, on a ship loaded with logwood, mahogany, tobacco, sugar, coffee, beeswax, and cheese. After 5 weeks at sea, the Jasper reached Malta, a small archipelago just south of Sicily. Emerson stayed a week, and then he moved on first to Sicily and then to Naples. He spent most of March in Rome and most of April in Florence. Author Sam Torode also writes about this time of Emerson's 10-month journey in his book, Living from the Soul. He describes how Emerson went on to spend time in France, England, and Scotland. He attended lectures by the leading scientists of the day, and he met eminent authors including Samuel Taylor Coleridge, Thomas Carlyle, and William Wordsworth. While visiting the gardens of plants and the Cabinet of Natural History in Paris, he had an epiphany of the interrelatedness of all life. The trip proved a turning point in Emerson's life. In the midst of despair, he grasped onto life. "That which I cannot yet declare has been my angel from childhood until now," he wrote in his journal on the voyage home. "It has inspired me with hope. It cannot be defeated with my defeats. It is the glory that shall be revealed. It is the open secret of the universe. I believe in this life. I believe it continues. As long as I am here, I plainly read my duties as writ with a pencil of fire. They speak not of death, they are woven of immortal thread." And what did he mean by this guiding angel? And what was the open secret of the universe, the soul. Sam Torode continues in his book, Living from the Soul. Through meditation and experience, Emerson came to see his soul as a part of the universal consciousness. The oversoul, he believed, is the very ground of existence, out of which all things, energy, matter, life, come into being. We cannot define the soul, he insisted, only evoke it with metaphor and poetry. Emerson likened the soul to the sun, too bright to be gazed upon directly, and yet by it we see all things. Emerson returned to the United States on October 9th, 1833, and he lived for a time with his mother in Newton, Massachusetts. In October 1834, he moved to Concord, Massachusetts, to live with his step-grandfather, Dr. Ezra Ripley, at what was later named the Old Manse. On January 24th, 1835, Emerson proposed marriage to Lydia Jackson of Plymouth, Massachusetts, in a letter to her. He wrote, "I obey my highest impulses in declaring to you the feeling of deep and tender respect which you've inspired in me. Can I resist the impulse to beseech you to love me? I have immense desire that you should love me, and that I might live with you always. And think it not strange, as you will not, that I write rather than speak. In the greatest acts of my life, I more willingly trust my pen than my tongue." Lydia wrote her acceptance letter, which reached him 4 days later. And in July of 1835, he bought a house on the Cambridge and Concord Turnpike in Concord, which he named Bush. This house is now a National Historic Landmark and is open to the public as the Ralph Waldo Emerson House. I recently took a tour of the Concord House, and incredibly, almost 100% of the furnishings and artwork are original to when Waldo and Lydia Jackson Emerson lived there with their children more than 150 years ago. It's really a true time travel experience to visit there. A central theme that runs through the tour and the guide's talks is the collaborative, co-inspiring connections between the prominent artists and authors of Concord. Theodore Parker, a minister and transcendentalist, noted Emerson's ability to influence and inspire others. The brilliant genius of Emerson rose in the winter nights and hung over Boston, drawing the eyes of ingenuous young people to look up to that great new star, a beauty and a mystery, which charmed for the moment, while it gave also perennial inspiration as it led them forward along new paths towards new hopes. Henry David Thoreau was 14 years younger than Emerson, but was a frequent visitor to the family home. And being just a little older than Waldo and Lydian's children, he formed close connections with the children as well as with Emerson as a mentor. The frequent walks in nature that Thoreau and Emerson shared together have resulted in a nature trail called the Emerson-Thoreau Amble, which runs between Emerson's home and the conservation land that connects to Walden Pond. Emerson described himself as a professor of the joyous science, a detector and delineator of occult harmonies and unpublished beauties, a herald of civility, nobility, learning, and wisdom, an affirmer of the one law, yet as one who should affirm it in music or dancing, a priest of the soul. I'll close my sermonette with one more quote from this priest of the soul. We live in succession, in division, in parts and particles. Meantime, within man is the soul of the whole, the wise silence, the universal beauty to which every part and particle is equally related, the eternal one. And this deep power in which we exist and whose beatitude is all accessible to us is not only self-sufficing and perfect in every hour, but the act of seeing and the thing seen, the seer and the spectacle, the subject and the object are one. We see the world piece by piece as the sun, the moon, the animal, the tree, but the whole, of which these are shining parts, is the soul. And I invite you to join me in speaking our unison benediction. May the love which overcomes all differences, which heals all wounds, which puts to flight all fears, which reconciles all who are separated, be in us and among us now and always. And before I read our closing blessing, I'm just going to extinguish the chancel light. In the words of John W. Brigham, go your ways, knowing not the answers to all things, yet seeking always the answer to one more thing than you know. Go in peace, my friends, and return again in great joy.
Thank you, Gay. Thank you. And I just want to invite everyone, if you would be so interested, there's a book sale going on right next door. Great books. Oh. So, and can't get better prices. So go ahead and enjoy yourself if you're so interested.